look at our next potential meeting. Let's see here. Gonna have the 25th. Is that good for everybody?
Yeah, I may be late to that. Should be okay though by 10.
Okay. All right. And you guys can continue on. I've got a hard stop at 11. I got a Zoom call I got to jump on. So, but I think we'll be okay today. So the first thing is our, I guess our national grid demand program. And I have to say, I'm not really positive what that is, but is that the grant for power? Is that what we're, Lisa, is that what that is?
So I talked to Brian a little bit about that. Basically, it's an incentive program where National Grid will come in and will not come in, but they'll ask us to shut down the power at the plant for a couple of hours, maybe like 3 times a year. We do have the option of saying no and rescheduling, but it would be obviously during peak time. That's the gist of the program.
What's the purpose of it?
It's to it's an incentive program for the town to get not income, but get paid for shutting down and trying to conserve energy.
That seems like it could be fraught with all sorts of issues.
So they're talking about like a rolling blackout on the sewer department.
Basically,
yeah, like a brownout.
Right. They want to use it for all buildings that have generators, basically. Now, the old demand response system was we got paid, and I had it at our data centers and stuff, and our feeling was that, you know, if the power is going to be cut off because of overusage or what happens is the electricity is sort of going down in quality as it's more and more is being used up. So in a data center, you want the electric power to be as good as it can. So you sign a deal and they pay you X numbers of dollars a month to be on the program, and they will do 1 test a year. And then if they need you, they'll call and say, turn your generators on. They actually have equipment that can do it automatically, but we didn't want to get involved with that at all because how come it just went off? So it was pretty good. And then they start, and so basically we never needed it during a demand time. The only thing we ever did was a test. And so it was like, gave us, you know, enough money a month that would cover the maintenance of the generators for, you know, for a year. So, but on this one, it is one of, they're actually going to have you do it. And then they might go ahead and say, well, we don't need any more, so you don't have to turn yours on. But they're going to pay you, and I don't think it was $35 a kilowatt hour, because that's a significant amount of money. If it was 35 cents a kilowatt hour, which we're paying probably 20 cents a kilowatt hour, it's not worth it because, you know, the cost of the fuel to be in the generators to use it may be more than the cost of that you're getting back. So I wouldn't mind doing it because you're not going to really necessarily use it as long as you get a certain minimum fee, and the amount is, you know, 100 times more than what you're paying, so that it's really worthwhile. So if it was $35, that would make some sense. And then they're going to give you a check at the end of the year for whatever it is they used. So they would install a device that will determine how long your generator is running and what the amount of demand that's going through your meter, how that gets reduced, and then it's going to sort of go over. It's worth. There's no penalty to leave it, so it's worth investigating it and seeing if it really is worth it. Because I'd say we would be one of the places that would create the greatest amount of revenue because of our consumption. So
Would they want us to shut down just for at peak hours, just for one day at a time? One day a week?
Sometimes it's just a matter of a couple of hours.
Oh, just a couple of hours?
God, we had it for 5 or 6 or 7 years, and it was almost like never used, but they had it in their calculations. And of course, the grid is doing this to prevent having to build another power plant. Because why do you want to build a power plant for just a short time right now in the course of a year? And it's usually air conditioning and heat. You know, very hot temperatures is usually where it's going to be used.
So you think it would be daily?
Excuse me, what?
Would it be daily?
No, it would. I mean, it absolutely is something that they may not even use, but they want the resources to fulfill their requirements with all the regulators, that they have the capacity and that they've done something about it. That's really what it does.
Yeah.
And doing it through the state is sort of an opportunity to consolidate and have like, no more than 365 customers, right? With the 365 cities and towns, rather than having 1,000 people participating in it. That's all different industries and stuff like that.
So I would assume that there's already a procedure at the facility for power outage and switching over to generator.
Should be an automatic transfer switch. It's
Yeah,
It is.
yeah. So
Yeah,
is that generator very loud at all? I mean, we're gonna get complaints from the neighbors every time it kicks over, or what?
That's what I was gonna see. Well, how much friction are we gonna get from the neighbors on it? Because it is loud.
the situation is that it is good to operate something other than just a test. In other words, running it for 24 hours is really good, because it's cleaning up the brushes and all that other stuff. Because I'm not sure that, excuse me, that we test our generators with a load bank, they call it. And it's like a massive toaster, and it consumes power and creates heat. And by doing that, you know exactly what the capacity is for your generator in terms of, as generators age, they're going to go down, 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 and how much they can actually produce. So the load test puts a strain on it, and it really cleans everything and sort of wears it down like the brushes on a motor, and that's good for it. And the size of our generator, I don't know if it's been done for 20 years, you know, whether our maintenance person does anything. And I doubt that it's been used for a reasonably long period of time, maybe every 3 or 4 years. You know,
No, I think it kicks over at least once a year. Based upon what I understand, it kicks on at least once a year due to a brownout or power outage.
Okay.
So, I mean, it is used and it is exercised, but I don't think it was subjected to a load bank test for probably since the time of installation.
Yeah. So that's, by the way, that's something that we should consider. But in terms of the program could very well be worthwhile, and it's not, you can quit or you don't. They call up and say, no, I can't do it. We're doing maintenance and I can't put the generator on now because we're doing this, that. They totally understand that. And we would never let them turn it on automatically, which they wanted to have the capacity to do.
So Wayne, I mean, would they be paying us money even if they didn't have us turn the generator off?
We have to look at the agreement, because there should be some minimum. And it should be now, what it looks like when I printed out the documents is that they've authorized 2 or 3 different companies to do this. National Grid themselves is like a company doing it, but there are a couple of other they're energy companies, but they're not in our power source. We had someone in Boston that handled this through the power company, and they got a share of what we got. That's how they made their money. So a couple of these companies are probably going to be the same way. Mm-hmm. So, they push the idea of using it because then they get paid a percentage. And I think it was like 25% or something. But, our checks were pretty healthy, and we didn't really use them. So I guess the questions for Lisa is there any minimum that you get for being in the program? is there an confirm that you can opt out at any time, or if you're doing things that you don't, and they ask for it, that you don't have, you're not penalized for not providing it. And 30, is there a minimum amount you're going to get? Unless I said that was number one.
Yeah, so Brian Joyce is on now, if he can add any insight to it.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Sorry, I just jumped on as you were talking about it. So from my understanding, I talked with Mike Skinner, who's the National Grid rep who manages this program. And it was just like you said, Wayne, it's you sign up for the program. It is optional on certain peak demand days, which might be, 2 or 3 times a summer. They will contact you and say, can you come off the grid for these hours? And it's usually, during heat waves, air conditioning, like you said. And you can opt out. You can say, no, I don't want to do it today. And then there's no penalty or anything to opt out for that, say if the generator wasn't working or you were doing maintenance. So I don't see any downside to this. And I think the program is, National Grid's pushing it for this very reason you said, that, they're trying to shave peaks so that they don't have to build another plant. And so the schools are looking at this, the town's looking at it for the generators we have. Water and sewer are the biggest by far energy users. So the check that they send you at the end of the quarter or whatever it is, you guys would probably have the most to gain by opting into this program. So I think it's worth kicking the tires at least, and talking to Woodard and Curran about how they feel about the operation of the generator.
Yeah.
And just one other thing on this program that I haven't seen in the past, we've looked at this in the past. There was a bullet, and I haven't gone into the nitty gritty on the details, but there was a bullet that said they also will subsidize generator improvements or upgrades, which is something brand new that I haven't seen in the past. So maybe there's money out there if you need to do something like a new transfer, whatever it might be, to make this generator work.
How many generators do we have? I know we have the big one. Well, no, for sewer. I know we have the big one, but each pump station should have one too, right?
Everything but Parker, I think.
Yeah, if they got a percentage for maintenance on these things, that would be nice, because if we're going to be kicking them on and off, it's going to increase our maintenance expenses on these things.
Actually, it improves the operation of the generators. It really does. You park your car for 12 months. What happens? The battery's dead, and when you start it up, a puff of smoke comes out and all this other stuff. And it really is. I mean, you're looking at a Caterpillar generator that can drive a truck 300,000 miles, and it's sitting here doing nothing.
Yeah. I mean, they exercise it maybe 15 minutes a week,
Okay.
but it really doesn't run a long length of time, and it's good to exercise it for a period of time, as Wayne said.
And the other thing is, it uses up the fuel so that you don't have fuel that is 10 years old sitting in that 3,000 gallon tank underneath it, or whatever the size is. And that we should be putting additives in the fuel and all this other stuff to, and in our business, we would go ahead and test it, and we want to run it down, and
I think our generator is natural gas. I think we only have 2 diesel generators in town, DPW and the senior center.
Everything's natural.
So Brian, is there is there ongoing maintenance on the generators now? Do we run them once a year for an hour, or is there preventive maintenance schedule?
Yeah, I mean, I can only speak for the town side, and I think the maintenance of the sewer generator comes under the Woodard contract, but on the town side, we have biannual maintenance.
Okay.
And it, like Dan had said, it's on an exercise schedule where, every Tuesday at 9 a.m. it turns on for 15 minutes to a half an hour just to run, and then that's on a pre-programmed maintenance. But other than that, it's just come in, do whatever, filters, belts, oil change, and then make sure it's running. But the big thing is load test, and that's very rarely done on any of our generators unless you need them. So this would
We
be
just have to find out in our contract with Woodard if they're doing a preventive maintenance on the generators.
The load test is not an expensive thing. It's, under $1,000 in a lot like likelihood. And they just come down, they bring all the cables and they, set up the toaster that I call it, and then run the generator, and they can do different things for adjustments and all kinds of other stuff. So that's something we should do.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I think we should look into it. It won't cause any harm to us not to.
Yeah.
now there is a deadline for the end of the month, so it would be a case of I would say yes to it, and then they can always not do it. Versus, in other words, unless, and of course, they want a deadline. And of course, we get hurt at the 2 or 3 weeks before the deadline, because obviously they haven't met the amount that the people that are in the program now are providing, so that they want more. So I think that, and like I said, to do it in the little, the highway garage that is using it for lights and heat or something, is not going to necessarily be as beneficial as it is for the 2 highest users. So, and I don't think I would probably do it when school's in session, but it usually isn't during the summer. So if they want to do that.
Yeah, they're saying 2 to 3 hours between 2 and 7 p.m. And mostly during, it says June, July, August, or September, but most events will be called in July and August.
Yeah, so your schools could participate if they want to.
Are they only referencing the wastewater treatment plant, or are they talking about all generators? Because it doesn't really make sense to do the remote pump stations, obviously.
No.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, right. For the sewer side, I think, right, just the treatment plant makes sense.
Yeah, I think I think the biggest thing is we're gonna have to see. I mean, where I am, I can hear it when it goes on, and I haven't heard it in a while, but I do know when it's on. So I think there is going to be some neighbor backlash of us running the thing at 3 o'clock. It's for 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours, on say a summer afternoon when they might be outside. But I think we could test the market, I think, a little bit, see how that goes.
I think you'll be surprised how infrequent it is done. It's really, to have it available is, to me.
Yeah. So at least do they offer to come in and talk to people, or is there any way that we could have somebody from National Grid come in and talk to us?
Brian, do you know? I don't know.
So I'll reach out to Mike Skinner, and I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be able to jump on a commission meeting and talk about it.
But I think I'd get on the deadline. Is that firm? And if so, I would say yeah.
First.
Yeah, I agree too. I think we should do it. It doesn't look like there's any, I mean, if we can just leave when we want to, it doesn't seem like there's any penalty to us.
It specifically says that too. It says that it remains in effect until you unsubscribe.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we investigate and sign up for the program and then evaluate it and see how it works.
And I second that. All in favor?
Aye. Wayne Sawchuck, aye.
Yeah, Bill McGowan, aye.
Paul Kearsarge.
Good.
And Bill, do you want to put that on the agenda for the 25th? Because they have to have a decision by the end of the month, right?
Yeah, I think we should tell them we want to do it, and then get into some, just find out some more information on it, how we implement it and all that kind of thing. But I think it's a no-brainer. But yeah, I think
Brian, Brian, could you invite him to the meeting on the 25th?
Yes, I will. I'm emailing him right now. So I'll tell him that we're interested in the program and signing up, and if he can come to the meeting on the 25th, we'll.
So he could just give us an overview on the 25th, and Lisa, you can put that on the agenda for sure.
Yep.
Right.
Will do.
And I
Okay.
think It may involve soundproofing a little bit too, because I mean, the generator was built with insulation in it, but sometimes there's extra things you can do in a neighborhood environment.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
critical silencer is used to really, like a secondary muffler, and obviously those can corrode or get a little weaker over time, so.
Okay. Next.
So we've got this permit, public comment, but I don't think we've had any, I don't know, Lisa, if we've gotten any comment. This is on the nitrogen permit, I believe.
Yeah.
Has anybody commented on it or asked anything? Nothing?
Nope, nothing. Just a couple of emails that you guys were copied to on,
We talked about crafting our own letter perhaps
yeah,
and submitting it rather than being just one name with 20 other names as Dan suggested on one letter.
I basically had 5 items that I think we should consider commenting on.
Yeah,
One was the PFAS, which is additional costs, obviously. And from my perspective, they're going to be collecting PFAS and some information from all kinds of sites. So it's not like they're going to use our facility as a, as the basis or for their permitting aspects. All they're really doing is basically trying to characterize what we have. And in order to characterize what we have, I think a reduced frequency of testing is probably more than adequate to define what we have for PFAS. So, I mean, they wanted us to do them, I believe it was quarterly on the draft permit. So I'm talking about once a year for, 3 years, maybe year 1, 3, and 5 of the permit. And I think that should be more than sufficient. So that'd be my recommendation or comment.
so the water department has to go nutty doing this now. And I toured the plant down there and I asked Scott if there was a way we could piggyback off of it, but he said it's different and separate from what we would have to do. So, like you said, Dan, if we're doing PFAS at the water department like crazy, then how much data from us is going to help any decision-making process? I don't know, but I do know that if they start out quarterly, based on the results, you could do a reduced sampling. I don't know if they would give us the reduced sampling right out of the gate,
Right.
unless we can prove that the water department is adequately doing it.
Yeah, well, the water department's going to do it on their finished water, and they're going to have a lot less concentrations, hopefully.
Okay.
Than
Yeah.
what we have. A lot of the PFAS are coming off with washing dishes, washing different things, laundry. That's where a lot of it's introduced. So our concentrations would theoretically be higher than what the water department's seeing.
Okay.
But again, there is a higher priority, obviously, from an ingestion perspective on the water side than what we're doing. But eventually, wastewater is going to catch up with the water as well. So, but to do it 4 times a year is I think, from my perspective, pretty excessive. And I think there was a letter from Shelburne Falls that wanted to get us on their letter as well, and they have a similar perspective. They were more concerned about the cost of the testing, but which everyone should be concerned about.
Yeah, I don't know with labor and testing if that's going to be $2,500 a quarter kind of cost or what.
I think it's going to be close to that.
Yeah.
If you have to do the sludge as well. They haven't defined the methods yet, so
Okay.
it's hard to tell what the labs are going to start charging.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So they could. That's an extra 10 grand a year for us.
Very easily.
Easily. Yeah. And it doesn't get cheaper after each year. So.
And the question is how much are they really going to use that information, in my mind? And you can characterize the plant by doing it once, 3 times a year for the or 3 times for the 5-year permit period.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be at least 5 years or more before they actually institute regulations regarding wastewater for PFAS. And
Yeah,
then it's very difficult if they can't.
Take them a while to gather. Yeah, they need data before they can make a decision.
Right.
We know
We
their
collect
decision
from
making,
everyone else, where it's just a drop in the bucket,
right?
So
Well-
I'd comment on that. Also, we do wet testing, and our wet testing has been excellent from day one. Always, 100%. In other words, it's not toxic. And they used to have a program where you could basically reduce your frequency, and they kind of suspended that when all the permits expired because they said we're in a new permit period. We're not going to allow that. So we never got on the bandwagon for that aspect. But I think we should try to incorporate that in, or have at least a provision within the permit where you can reduce the frequency of wet testing, because that is also very significant in cost. That's probably $3,000 a test. And that's
So they, yeah, so they haven't set any alert limits or anything like that, right?
said any, I'm sorry?
They haven't set any alert limits, meaning when you test and it reaches a certain level, then some action has to be taken. So
Oh.
if we're testing and we're below the alert limits, then we should have the ability to reduce the frequency.
Right. And basically, if you show some toxicity,
Yeah,
that's when it becomes an issue. But we've always been 100%. In other words, you could basically put the species in our whole effluent and
Okay.
no toxic effects. So, because we have a membrane facility.
right.
The nature of our wastewater is strictly domestic. So, that's always a concern. If you allow other commercial entities, medical facilities, that type of thing coming into the system, it can have an impact on that occasionally. But, right now you're strictly domestic for the most part, and you've never had an issue. So I'd like to try to make a comment on that so that they incorporate the reducing of the frequency into their regulations. The two other things was they did send the permits out to CZM for comment. There's only 5 facilities that have saltwater discharges or brackish water discharges. So there's not very many of the 63 that they're permitting for under this. CZM is only commenting on those 5 facilities. And, CZM's been tough regulatory wise for a bunch of years now. So I just wanted to reserve the rights to provide additional comments once CZM's, as a regulator, once CZM's comments come in, we should have another opportunity to comment. Let's see. Yeah, I did have a concern that right now they have a new requirement to contact Division Marine Fisheries within 4 hours if we have some type of overflow or discharge that might cause an issue with the receiving waters. 4 hours is fine, during the course of a day, but it's not very good if it's in the middle of the night or something like that, or on weekends. And I was a little concerned that might be a little too aggressive for the operators to respond back if they're in the middle of an emergency. And also, Division Marine Fisheries doesn't even have a 24/7 hotline or anything like that set up currently. So, there has to be some revisions there if that's going to be instituted. And then finally, it was on the video inspection of the outfall. They wanted it done, every 2 years, and I think that was a little bit excessive. Nothing changes significantly in our abatement. Dredging's the biggest impact, and that's not done, more frequently than once every 5 years, more than likely closer to once every 10 years. And it takes a while to do any type of dredging and stuff like that as well. So if you did have some issues with the outfall, you needed to reset it or do some repairs, it's going to be a little period of time before you get that squared away. I just think every 2 years is a bit aggressive, and I think doing it once every 5 years or once within a permit period is probably fine. So those were my comments. They are due back. Any comments are due by the 25th of May. So
Who submits those? Do you submit them on our behalf, or do we?
You would sign the letter, or you as the chairman probably, so I could draft up something for Lisa to put on letterhead and give to you. For
All right.
Okay, so that's the go ahead. Dan's going to draft the letter.
Yeah, and then just once he gets it, I'll just give me a ring and I'll come in and sign it.
Okay. And I can notarize it.
I know, that's congratulations. I forgot to mention that you're now a notary. Did you get a raise?
No.
You have to go to Boston to get sworn in?
What's that?
You have to go into Boston to get sworn in?
I actually opted out of that. I went to Dedham.
Okay.
I went to Dedham a couple of weeks ago. What's that?
I didn't know if they were doing it remote now.
Yeah, yep, you can, but not remote, but you have to show up somewhere.
All right, so why don't we move on to INI? And I can tell you, I saw them out on Elm Street a week or so ago inspecting, and I talked to one of the Woodard guys, so I can't remember his name. He basically said that things looked actually pretty good. Now, I don't know what the definition of pretty good is, but at least that's what he said.
So Brian, based on the report that Woodard and Curran sent us about Elm Street, now that they looked at it, is that still in play or not? Maybe he stepped away. Because if I remember correctly, once we talked that the report from Woodard had concerns about Elm Street, and since the water department was going to go down Elm Street anyway, we talked about combining efforts. But if they've done a preliminary look at sewer on Elm Street, Scott had mentioned it came up pretty good as well. So we were going to take INI money. I think he said it was about 60 or 80 grand or something in the report to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where we went.
I'm gonna text him right now.
Oh, there he is.
Hi, sorry, I was just on a phone call. You were talking about Elm Street. I haven't gotten the report from on the camera work that was done 2 weeks ago, but I heard initial reports being on site that it wasn't as bad as previously expected. So at any rate, we're waiting on that data from Woodard and Curran, the report and the cost estimate. And I did speak with the Water Commission, and we are planning to do a bid item and in their contract to do the repairs. So that's already in the works. Woodard and Curran will do the spec and the measurement and payment bid, which we're going to add to the water contract.
I see. You still think it's going to be 60, 70 grand?
I don't know yet.
Okay. Okay, because we had talked about it. It was in their initial report. But if the camera inspection came back better than they thought, hopefully it reduces our expense. There isn't much more to do.
I think you have more budget than that. So that sounds about right, but I think your budget is in excess of that amount. So
Yeah, I know the INI budget's much bigger, but we talked about this specific Elm Street that was in their report they sent to us about a month or two ago.
Brian, did they do the laterals off of Elm Street too? Or any length within the right of way?
the main laterals, like coming down Stevens and those.
Stockbridge.
Yeah, they did the laterals. I don't think they did the, up the house laterals, but
No. Just within the right of way. Because I recall there was a couple of defects, cracks along some of those side laterals. So that's the only thing to keep an eye out for.
Some problems right next to the police and fire station there with that house and stuff, and sort of, found some things that weren't very good. And
yeah, coming down from the housing authority.
Yeah, does that do 60 Elm Street, Dan?
Yeah, so 60 Elm Street comes down next to the fire station.
Right of it, right?
To the right of it, yep.
And then the house was built, and I guess they had to go around it or do something about the easement, or someone paid them off or whatever.
Stevens has come down that way as well.
Oh, it
Breaks
comes up. Oh,
over and goes that side too.
Okay. So I guess we're just waiting for the report then. So Diablo, I believe we're all set with that, Lisa, that the application and what have you has been processed with us?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, he has a deadline of September to connect.
Okay.
September 1 or September 30, do you know?
I want to say it's mid-September. We had a definitive date that I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
That's fine. So he has to start construction by then.
He has to connect by
Yeah,
then.
I think
Oh,
it
yeah,
has to be
it's connected.
finished.
Okay,
And that was, I sent him the approval letter, and that was in the approval letter. I can forward you all the approval letter if you want.
that's fine.
Good luck to him.
He sold one of the properties.
Sold.
He sold one that he said he was going to be building himself on.
Mhm.
What truth we have here.
Okay,
What's the mechanism that comes into play for us to know that he connected by September? Is that something we get from Brian, or is that?
Well, he would need the inspection.
Yeah.
Once it's connected, he has to
For the
call
town.
down for an inspection.
Okay, so then you get notified that it passed.
I get notified to set up the inspection.
Okay, so that's the mechanism then. Okay,
Now, what happens to the lot that he sold? What, that's out of the picture now?
No,
You mean-
it still has to be,
Also? Or and then the fee goes up? Or is that something that the person who buys it is going to have a surprise to? Surprise with?
I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, I would presume he's told the buyer what's going on.
I think typically when it's for sale and the buyer wants confirmation that it's able to connect to sewer, that's where the approval letter comes in.
Mhm.
Because the realtor called asking about that. And I did send the approval letter to Matt. And I'm assuming that he would present that to the buyer's agent.
Did the approval letter, so the approval letter said that sewer's available now and it must be connected by the September, whatever.
Yeah,
And if not, this is what happens? Or just, it has to be connected by then?
I believe I had an if not. But I'll have to check.
Yeah, because that would be, that's the key ingredient of this.
Right.
Yeah.
I actually just had, if you bear with me for a moment, I'll go on my other screen. Because I just had it up.
Just while Lisa's looking that up, I was talking to Michelle, and she is signing up for the National Grid program. Apparently, it's town-wide, so it'll include water, sewer, and the schools. And it appears that it's a credit on your bill rather than a kind of a paper check mailed to you or anything like that. So I've asked Mike Skinner to join us on the 25th, but I think we're going to get signed up town-wide regardless, and then we can, opt in or out per department as necessary.
Okay. Okay, should we go on to town-owned grinder pumps?
Lisa's looking on that.
Yeah, okay.
sounds
That's
good.
fine.
Yeah, Rod had sent the summary of everything, which I thought was really great. Thank you, Rod. That was very helpful for somebody who's elementary at this, as I am. So I think that helped Lisa out a lot as well. So I think it's been receptive so far, Lisa.
Yes. I'm sorry, say that again.
We're talking about the grinder pump and the summary that Rod had sent and the last mailing that everything went out. So are you satisfied with where we are now?
I am, yep. And most of the reminders went out. I still have a few to send. There's about 100 people that haven't responded. And that's it, pretty much.
Okay.
Have the vendors been put on notice that these are now residents,
Yes,
Davis and-
FR Mahoney has, is
Okay,
that what you mean?
yeah, Rosano Davis too. I don't know if Wooded and Current still calls them occasionally for grinder pumps.
Yeah, it depends on what is going on, but usually they would connect with me first.
But Scott knows anyways, right? So-
Yes.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
So,
And, we have 8 invoices that came in from FR Mahoney, adding up to $6,854 for grinder pump maintenance. They came in after that March 31st deadline. I held on to them and I contacted FR Mahoney to bill the homeowners. And then I spoke with them yesterday. I asked them to hold off until we had a chance to lastly discuss it on whether or not we're going to honor those.
Yeah, the only thing I'd say about that is that if the homeowners aren't paying the town, they may not want to pay FR Mahoney. So I think that as much as I think that the proper thing for us to do is say, okay, if they don't get paid in 30 days or something, that we should pay it. And then maybe we and maybe Rod, this is a conversation for you. Maybe we pay it and then put a lien on the homeowner if they don't pay, or I don't know what the legalities of this and what the mechanisms we would have to employ to do it.
He also might have to take a look at the date of release relative to, when the homeowner released it back to the town and when the repair occurred.
Right, but I think in this case, a lot of these guys are people that are just being, blind to receiving any of these things, and they don't want to do it. Okay, well. tough.
Yeah, and out of the 8, there were only 2 that signed. So 6 did not sign the release. But the letter clearly stated that the program was ended.
The town don't repair a grinder pumps that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I guess, Rod, that goes back to my question then. If nobody pays, I think it's probably reasonable for the sewer commission to cover the costs of FR Mahoney because they have actually done the service. But then what do we do? Do we put a lien on or the town put a lien on the homeowner, or?
I want to double check the language, the lien language, to make sure, to see whether that kind of cost can be added on.
Okay.
I'm wondering if it can be something that can just be added to the next quarterly bill as a extra fee. I know that there's a spot for it, and then if it goes on the bill, then and the bill isn't paid, then it ultimately will get paid, because that would be a process that ends up, when the bank gets a copy of the tax bill and sees that there's an item here, they're just going to go ahead and pay it, and then they're going to get the money back from the person normally. In the different cases that I'm aware of.
I mean, you could also offer a one-time payment by the town for that invoice if they sign their release too, as an incentive, just to get it going too. Why waste the payment? Try to get the release out of them as well.
And then the other thing is that the ones that didn't sign were charged the next quarterly fee, which would indeed cover until March 31st. And these that I held, some of them were the first week of April.
Did any of the people that didn't sign, have they paid a quarterly fee yet? Do you know?
Say that again?
So I think you just said that there are several people that were billed for quarterly fees that haven't signed.
Yes.
Do we know if they've paid it?
Well, the bill's not due yet.
Oh, okay.
I think it's due in June.
So is this the standard quarterly fee that we had before, or was it increased?
Yes. No, it's a standard 125.
Rod, does that constitute any type of contract, like charging them a fee and then reassuming the maintenance or anything like that?
But it's paid in arrears.
It's paid in arrears.
Yeah,
And so-
okay.
So that, in my ivory tower mind, what, if they haven't signed up by, by the end of March, then they owe the fee, in arrears because they got the insurance for that period. And so the issues are going to be, we get a bill in from early April, was it a problem on, March 27th or something like that? But we're narrowing it down. Dan, I was thinking, should we also give them incentive to make sure they get vaccinated, along with?
I think we'd be intermingling ourselves with other town departments, which would be not a problem, so.
I mean, some people feel comfortable with the monthly fee so long as they don't have to worry about their pump. You may want to consider raising that fee, or raising that.
No, what I recommend is that we stop.
Yeah, get out of the business of grinding
Yeah.
out maintenance.
And that's, for people who do not respond to the letters Lisa is now sending out, we have a third letter that says it's done. Because I think job one is to get out of this business.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, once we get into our new fiscal year, July 1, we shouldn't have to deal with this at all. Should be behind us, I would think.
You would hope. All right, let's if we can, so I got 10 minutes and I just wanted to make sure we cover everything that we got here. So regarding the engineering service contract, I've seen it, and I don't know whether Wayne and Paul, you've reviewed it at all, but I did.
I have, yeah, there's no, I have no issues with it at this point.
Yeah, I don't either. Wayne?
My mind isn't clicking on this, so I don't think I saw anything that was out of line. So I would say,
Okay. All right. I don't know if we need to make well, I suppose we should. We've already actually, no, I'm looking at the wrong one here. Maybe you edit.
We're supposed to approve it because it's a contract that we,
Yeah, we're amending
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'll make a motion that we vote to approve the revised engineering contract.
yes, second.
All in favor, Bill McGowan is aye.
Wayne
all
Sutton,
fair side.
sorry.
So the only thing outstanding on that is issuing POs for the selected tasks we had outlined.
Yep, we'll do that. And I think we'll figure out something pretty simple that they'll basically be the date that we're issuing it, that kind of thing. So just so we have a way of tracking it and how then we can match that up with whatever invoice you send in, but we can figure that one out.
Yep.
So our sewer application connection, disconnection, and modified use permit policies. So what, Lisa, why do we have this? We voted on this, right? We did vote on it.
We needed to vote on the language. It was
Rod-
updated.
Rod revised that language a little bit. to make it
Yeah,
a little more legible.
the disconnection policy was one I had modified just a little bit. The substance was the same. It was just organization stuff. And I sent that out last week, I think.
That's fine.
So you want to vote on it?
Yeah, so I'll make a motion that we review the revised language for the sewer application, connection, disconnection, and modified use permit policy.
Second,
All in favor, Bill McGowan, aye.
Wayne
All
Sutton,
fair side.
Okay. Anyone have anything else?
Yeah, Bill, just to note that I think everybody has seen a copy of the letter from communications from Attorney DeLisi on the CJC project that came in. I'm reviewing that and I'll send out some comments to the commissioners, and I think it should be on the agenda for the meeting on the 25th.
Okay. Yeah, I got it. I haven't read it yet, but I will later. Okay. Is there anything else that board wants to discuss while we're here?
So just back to Diab Lane, yeah, I just had that the deadline was that date. I did send him the policy that shows the rates. So
Shows what the rate will be after that date.
yeah, but I didn't specify that in the letter, but I did send him the policy.
Well, he knows. I mean, he should be telling
Yeah.
his,
Yeah, but what,
he should be telling his buyer.
he's giving the buyer a copy of something that doesn't really say the penalty for not doing it by that date. That's the thing that we don't want to be arguing with a person who in good faith is buying something that has some baggage with it that the seller is responsible for.
Right, we're not, I mean, we've told him what in multiple occasions, what the deal language is. And, you know, if he doesn't convey that to the buyer, that's
Right.
his problem.
And by the way, it could be that the other two lots sell in the same method when he absolutely positively said, no, he's not going to sell the lots. He's going to build on them himself. This is where things just aren't right. Okay.
All right.
So this is what I said to him. The sewer connection is approved for 1 EDU up to 4 bedrooms. Each additional bedroom requires additional fees and applications. See the sewer privilege and connection fee policy attached. And then a note and highlighted in yellow, the deadline to connect is September 16th, 2021.
Yeah, that doesn't throw any red flags to me as a new owner, I don't think.
But
Maybe
to
worthwhile.
a person buying, it's almost seems like an impossibility. You don't even have a building permit to get going. And we know that there's going to be some complaints from neighbors about even building on the lots. So I don't want to.
So what can we do? Are there any suggestions from Rod?
I think what we've done is enough. We've notified the property owner and he has to comply with it. If he doesn't share that information with the people he sold property to, that has nothing to do with the sewer department.
Right.
I don't know, Rod, what your thoughts are on it. I don't know that there's much more to do.
Well, in the list of fees, is it showing the current fees?
Yes.
So does the buyer have to come in and do a new application for the sewer connection?
No, because Matt's the current owner.
No,
So-
but is it true that Matt did something on a piece of paper that says, all right, there's going to be a foundation here, here, and here, and this is where I'm going to run the sewer pipe to. But the person buying the lot may probably a 99% chance is they're not going to build what someone else designed as a rectangle, saying this is where the house is going to be, and even having it at that location, which to me would mean you've got a new set of plans, you're going for a building permit, that set of plans should then have the location, the proposed location of the sewer and all the rest of the stuff, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to have an opportunity when the building permit application comes in, and I would make a point of asking, the building department to let you know when this comes in, to then make some decisions on that's okay or not okay.
Yeah, I do get notified. I'm a sewer sign off for building permits.
Okay, so you in that point could put a flag up and say to the
Yes.
buyer, this is the situation here.
Yeah, and I will notify John as well.
If the new buyer moves forward with building.
A new application for sewer, wouldn't it?
Yeah, if they don't do it by the 15th, that's the drop dead date. If they don't have a connection by that time, whether it is Matt or the new buyer, they're gonna have to come back and get a new sewer permit.
Application all over again, yeah.
to see the buyer, the nice people coming in and pleading for this and pleading for that, and they weren't told this and all that other stuff. I'm just trying to sort of prevent that from happening. Because it's not us going after the seller to say, hey, you sold this person something, you should do something. Anyway, just keep your eyes open and see what happens to the other 2 lots, and we continue this 5-year escapade here.
Yep, indeed we do.
Lisa, if you get a similar request, if those lots are sold and you get a similar request from the broker, maybe you could be a little more specific in the letter.
Yep.
All right, guys, if there's nothing else, I need to jump off.
All set.
Make
So
a
can I-
motion.
yeah, can I-
Motion to
go-
adjourn.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye, Wayne Sawchuck, aye.
Bill McGowan, aye.
All Kearsarge.
All right, guys,